also like to give thanks to the Tulsa League of Women Voters. They want to refresh me and timekeeping, and they deserve a round of applause as well. And as always, I want to open with a prayer. So I'd like to ask Wilson Paxton to come up and say a little prayer. John, please come in.
Father, we just thank you for this day that you've given to us, Lord. We just thank you for the persons who have come forward today that offer their service to the Osage Nation. Lord, we ask you to bless each one of them today. We ask you to see about their families and relatives, friends, and supporters here that have come here today. Lord, we ask you to bless the Osage Nation, its government, its people, its leaders. Lord, Principal Chief, Assistant Chief, Minerals Council, Congress, all of the different appointed ones who do the best for the nation. Lord, we thank you for that. We ask you to bless our leaders. Lord, as we look today to the future, as we look to our June dances that are coming up, and not just right in front of us, as our families get ready for those, we ask you to bless us, bless our groundkeepers, head men, different committees. Lord, we just ask you to be with us today with the questions and knowledge and information, that we be better informed about where the nation should go and the things that need to be addressed among the Osage people, and that we learn more about that today. That the candidates that they be able to find a way that they be better. What's the ones who were elected that will be leaders of the Osage Nation, they'll be able to see forward and see a direction for the nation and its people. Lord, we just look to you. We know we're a people that belong to you. We ask you to continue to see about us. You brought us here today. Brought our people a long way. We continue to thrive. We've had a history that we've had hard times and good times. And Lord, today we look to you again for your guidance. The process, everything that goes on here today, we give honor to you, and we'll see forward. We'll see the power of it. We know that you're in it. We just ask all these things in Jesus' name.
I'd also like to ask you to turn off your phones or put them on vibrator. So if you do ever take a call, take it out in the hallway. We want to give our always the candidates. Now, as I call the candidates, I want you to come to this side over here so that you can be mic'd so people can hear you. And from group 1, Myron, Maria, Whitehorn, R.J. Walker, Davis, and last but not least, Rebekah Horsechief. There's also been a buffet provided. We're going to take a break after the second group of candidates and hold off until then. That would be great. among the voters.
Thank you very much. We're very pleased to be here. And the first thing that we will do is read the rules for this debate today. First, each candidate will have 2 minutes each for an opening statement and 2 minutes each for a closing statement. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to answer each question and 1 minute for rebuttal. A volunteer from the League of Voters, that's us, will give, our timer here, will give each of you a 30-second warning. You're getting close to the end of your response time, and show you to stop when it is time to stop, and we do ask that you honor that. The moderator, that will be me for this session, reserves the right to shorten answer periods for the sake of time. So if we're running over time, we may take that, but I doubt it. Candidates may choose to pass on questions and rebuttal periods. Candidates will be offered time for rebuttals in the same order in which they answered. And I will add that for the first question, we will start with Mr. Red Eagle, and every candidate will have the opportunity to answer that question. For the second question that is asked, we'll start with Ms. Whitehorn and so on through, so that all candidates have a chance to answer first. Then the other thing that we do ask is that all answers and all candidates remain civil, and that candidates refrain from personal attacks on another candidate. And I, as the moderator, will reserve the right to disqualify any candidate who cannot adhere to this rule and will be asked to participate further in the debate at that point. So let us start with our first question, and I will say, I'll just read this. Questions have come from Osage tribal members, and they've been placed in this hopper, and I'll be pulling them out one at a time. So I will start that process now. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just reminded that I skipped completely over the opening remarks. So each candidate in order will have 2 minutes for your opening statement. Thanks. And we'll start with Mr. Reddy.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Osage for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Myron and I'm seeking a position on the 5th Osage National Congress. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from Wesleyan University. I was elected to the Osage Mineral Council in 2010 and 2014, where we earned over $20 million in the Osage area. I would like to do the same for Congress for the Osage people. I had 5 years experience in Whirlpool Corporation in Tulsa as an assistant quality manager. Down there, you make a mistake and it costs millions of dollars. My platform today has changed in business and personal locations. We need changes. In business, we don't have any businesses to self-sustain our economy. 98% of our revenue comes from gaming. That needs to change. And the vote. I looked at the populist vote, and it was less than 20%, far less than 20% voted in the last election. That needs to change. In the last administration, the Emergency Management Department has put up regions where populace of the Osage were represented. A representative would represent so many Osages in other parts of the country. That's a start. Because all the people that I've talked to, many say they don't feel they're part of the nation. They don't feel included. That would be a beginning to that. With change, that means progress. You can't have progress without change. You've got to change things. This Congress has violated the Osage Constitution, present Congress. Do we need 4 more years of that? That's what the voters have to decide. That's Shannon. Y'all know, I mean, that's all. I really ask you to vote.
Thank you. And Ms. Myron.
Thank you, Osage News, and thank you for all of the Osage members that came out today and spent their afternoon with us and hearing what we have to say about moving forward with Osage Nation Congress. That's always been, let me introduce myself. My name is Whitehorn, and I have had the pleasure of serving for the past 4 years on the Congress. I've been an active member in Congress. I started out with chairing committees immediately. Past 2 years, I've served as Speaker of Congress. I've enjoyed that position. It's full and it's hard, but when I do my work, I always do my work with you in mind. We have to follow a process. We're a nation of laws. That's what we decided when the Constitution was adopted in 2006. So the legislative branch writes the laws for the nation. Executive and judicial. What I'd like to say to you today is I believe the nation needs to continue on. We need to continue on forward from where we are right now. And we need to try to reach a more balanced approach to what we do. Our culture is set up on balance and structure. The designs in our clothing that we wear shows balance. Our living work is balanced. This government that we've set ourselves up in, we have a legislative and executive branch. We need to find a balance between the services we offer to you people, the government that we have up on top of the hill, how much that costs. That's what I've been looking at as your congressman. How are we going to sustain our nation moving forward with the amount of money that we have right now to best serve everyone here? Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, and welcome everybody here today. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to get and say a few things, maybe discuss some of the issues. I'm sure we have some great questions. My name is R.J. Walker. I'm from Alaska. I live in Pleasant with my wife and 4 children. I was elected to Congress in 2012. Prior to that, I served as the nation's roads department director, being hired in 2002. Briefly on some of the platforms that I've been standing on and campaigning on, I want to remind the voters that if you want somebody to work well with others, including the executive branch, then that I've shown over the past 4 years I'm able to do that. I support the core benefits that we offer now, including the scholarship program, the health card, and the burial assistance, and any change or deviations that I would have to listen very closely to consider any diminishment of those core benefits. I support the autonomy of our boards. I think it's important that we maintain or allow them to maintain autonomy, work amongst themselves, and make business decisions. Government and politics and business doesn't mix, and when I see that happening, I try to remind my colleagues or other elected officials, hey, we back out of their business. That includes the Minerals Council. The Minerals Council conducts the minerals business, and government needs to stay out of their business unless we're asked to participate or help. Last 4 years, I've supported infrastructure improvements, youth programs and initiatives, among others, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see so many faces. A lot of them I recognize, a lot of them some I don't. It's good to see everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Clyde Davis. I'm a candidate for 5th Osage Nation Congress, and I ask for your vote today. I come today with lots of experience. I have been a employee of the Osage Nation for 27 years. I have been the Food Distribution Program Director for 22 years. And I have run that program successfully for the 22 years. One of the greatest platforms that I can put forward today and for the election is that we provide a nutritious food package to all low-income Native American households throughout the Osage Reservation. And that is important today because it ties into not only nutrition, not only helping those who need the help, but it also helps because our health problems that we have in this nation are rampant. Diabetes is almost 90%, and that's too high. This food package that I provide and have been providing for 22 years is nutritious because USDA says it has to be nutritious. So that's what I put forward. I also put forward that I have been on the board of directors for the National Association for Distribution, for the Regional Association. I'm on the board of education for the Harmony Public Schools. And I am on the board of directors for the Golden Eagle Federal Credit Union. So I ask that you consider that experience when you make your vote come the June election and consider me for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Horsechief.
Good afternoon. Wait, Dahe, Osage, Wika, Monzese, Osage, Monzaviche, Wahakuli, Pasuli, Monzoli. Hi, good afternoon. I'm glad you're all here. This is an awesome turnout. I'd like to thank you for joining me in this journey of campaigning for the Osage Nation, 5th Osage Nation Congress. My name is Rebekah Horsechief. I am from Alaska, Oklahoma. I was raised in the Albany with my grandma Eva. I was a cook for 10 years, and that's how I identify the community as a cook. Both my parents are Osage. My father is the Horsechief family, and he's from Hominy. My mother is the Osage family from Alaska. We're situated along that area by the Red Bulls and Lookouts. That's our family allotment area. Just real briefly, I'm glad you're all here. If elected, I'd like to just get down to technology. One of the things I'm proposing is an app for us to keep in touch with our folks outside. If elected, I plan on looking into services that provide total service and generate income for the tribe. I know we talk a lot about things that we want to invest in as candidates and as a nation. However, we're given a certain amount of money to work with. So feasible, let's look at the money we have, let's take a breath, let's stop, let's see where we're at, and find a way for worth investing. It'd be really nice to look into a tribally assisted. Hey, wait a second. I get 30 extra seconds just for that. We gotta start again. I'm just kidding. If elected, I plan to introduce legislation that will provide much-needed services as well as generate a return to our nation's treasury. That's really important. I believe our nation is well equipped to operate a tribally operated business as well as programs such as the funeral home, assisted living, and the nursing home, and dialysis center. As a student and former employee of the Osage Nation, I'm dedicated to providing opportunities for those people like myself who invested in your tribal dollars, my tribal dollars, $50,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we will move on to our first question. And I am going to start with Ms. Whitehorn, and we'll proceed on that way. So the first question, would you be in favor of financially supporting constituent service centers in all our major communities? Why or why not?
Well, the question is pretty broad about in all of our tribal communities, all of our tribal communities, is that what it said?
In all our major communities. And I'm going to stop you for a second, and then we do get some extra time, because I was reminded that I need to read the name of the person who submitted this question. It was submitted by Joe Carr. So we get a little extra time.
The question is pretty broad. We do have a constituent services department up on the campus of the Osage Nation, which can be reached by phone. Jackie Jones, the director of it, has done a fine job managing that. I'm not sure if Mr. Connor, Dr. Connor meant in outlying areas outside of the state of Oklahoma, in other communities within Oklahoma, or if within our just reservation boundary districts such as Hominy, Pahuska, and Gray Force. I believe that we have expanded the Constituent Services Department over the years to meet the needs of the Osage people who they serve, and that would be from the community outside. They currently execute or are the contact person for the health benefit that office serves all members of the Osage Nation. They know to call into our Constituent Services Department. At this time, I don't think it would be economically feasible or viable to put Constituent Services in Pahuska, Fairfax, and Hominy, and Scottsdale. Because I believe that they can reach them by phone, get the services they need. We have technology such as email that they can contact them by. So I support helping all Osages. We have to have more information about what was meant by that. So for right now, I think that our department that we have currently is serving the needs of Osage. Thank you.
And we'll give the same question to Mr. Walker. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. Would you be in favor of financially supporting constituent service centers in all our major communities? Why or why not?
I probably have to say no. I think that we can better utilize our finances in other areas. We do have constituent services that are available anytime by phone. In fact, I think we have a 24-hour hotline that anyone can call at any time. They're available by email. It's my understanding that they do have an outreach that they offer that they would be able to assist somebody. I'm not sure if an Osage wanted them to bring in some paperwork and help them out of their home. I'm sure Jackie and her staff would be willing to do that. So I would just have to say I don't think I can support that. I would be willing to listen to a well laid out plan, but just off the cuff, I would say no.
Thank you. And we will move next to Mr. Davis. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Please.
All right. Would you be in favor of financially supporting constituent service centers in all our major communities? Why or why not?
Yes, I would consider constituent services centers in all of our communities. I think we need to branch out. I know that I am in Hominy and have been for 20 years now. I have been running the program in Hominy for 20 years. I know that there are several programs that we serve over in Fairfax with their Head Start programs here in Skycoop. And I think that to be able to communicate with all of those services, there should be one central spot. And I hope that's what you're talking about, that we can contact any of those services. I don't really think it would take that big of a financial burden on the tribe. So I really would consider constituent services in each of our communities. I think it's really needed. I think it's needed to be able to go to somebody and talk to somebody without having to talk on the phone with somebody that is in Alaska and then maybe have further questions and then have to drive to Alaska. And I know that a lot of people complain about having to drive to Hominy for our services. So I really would think that we would have a good time if we did have constituent service centers in different areas. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Horsechief, do you want me to read it? Looks like you're ready to go.
No, we're ready.
Okay. You read it then. Would you be in favor of financially supporting constituent service centers in all our major communities? Why or why not?
I would be in favor of looking into what that would look like. Again, it's a question of finances. Now we come out of the executive office. As you know, the legislative branch is looking to the monies to appropriate for that particular type of service. I'm interested in hearing how that would look and how it would better serve those particular communities. It is. I live both in Great Horse and Hominy and Pawhuska, and with the Constituent Services Office central to the Hill in Pawhuska. That's a great location. It's a great new building. Again, it's an issue sometimes for people to get a ride, gas money, whatever it calls them, and as a deterrent in getting to constituent services. It would be really nice to see what a proposed sort of plan would be to mitigate those obstacles and provide a service. Again, everybody uses constituent services, so I'd be interested to see what that looks like as a plan initially.
Thank you. And we will now move on to the second question. And after forgetting, thank goodness I have my fellow big member here. Each of you does have 1 minute, correct, to take 1 minute for rebuttal. And I should start with the in order, so that would be Ms. Whitaker. Oh, I'm sorry, I should be fired immediately. And Mr. Reddy. Question again. Oh.
Well, why not? Probably economically and financially would be sufficient to sponsor something like that, especially in different parts of the country. Why? Possibly, why not? Just like it goes back to what I mentioned in my statement. You got a lot of people don't feel like they're included. They want to be part of the nation. And that's one of the reasons they vote. And the emergency management system, hopefully implement, will start at the beginning. And it also would be a beginning for constituent services center in California, Texas, Oklahoma City, where they wouldn't have jobs or have relatives come through. It would be economically feasible in the long run, but it would have to be planned in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, my apologies. And there is now a 1 minute rebuttal for anybody who chooses to make a rebuttal. And that would start again with Ms. White.
I just have one quick thing I'd like to say about that. I know that our WIC department does go out to some local communities and does not have a permanent office that is staffed Monday, Friday, 8 to 4:30. And they travel to those places to offer services to people in those communities, especially in our local areas. So that could probably be a solution if that is the need that the constituents of the outlying communities feel like. And they should bring that to the Congress members and to the executive branch. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Well, I realize we're probably going to talk about a significant cost, but, you know, being part of the branch that appropriates money right now, we're already saying no to really good ideas, initiatives that support youth programs and elder programs. I just think that there would be a better utilization of our funds in other areas. So, I would support that right.
And Mr. Davis?
I think that it is set up. There is in each community, there's a community center. Here, we use it. In Hominy, we use it. In Kitchen, there is a complex in Hominy that actually could house a constituent services center. There's some services in Fairfax, and I think they could house a constituent services center. It may be a little different in Fairfax area, but I think we should do it, so let's do it.
Thank you. Ms. Horsechief.
Respectfully, I disagree with the amount of money that is said in the bill towards it. I know that we have a bevy of vehicles within the nation's possession, the tribe's possession, that would allow for. I think what we're talking about is transportation. Having worked for the nation for over 10 years in a couple of drug services departments, I know that what is an issue for a lot of constituents is transportation. So without having to spend a lot of money, with the exception of gas money, we have vehicles to transport folks. If indeed we have these centers set up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy?
Yeah, I'm study, did some research on what the population is. There's over 6,000 voters, 1,400 some Texas, Kansas, 1,000, California is 1,200, sooner or later, we're going to have to address this. It is possible. It is possible. But we have to go to the population is, divide it up on the map, and see where we are.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to the second question. And the second question will be starting with Mr. Walker. And this is a long question. The Osage Nation receives a $40 million distribution from gaming revenue to operate the nation's programs and services for the Osage people. If elected, do you believe it is financially wise to only appropriate within that distribution? Or would you be an advocate for appropriating the distribution and also getting into the $30 million permanent fund? And this was submitted by Osage Congresswoman Alice Buffalohead.
Well, that's a good question. And probably talk for about 10 minutes about that. But I guess to answer the question, I think that we should continue to maintain or try our best to maintain the 40 million distribution and not go above that. The truth of the matter is we actually have 2 of the last 4 years, if not 3, received an additional distribution from gaming. But that $40 million cap has served us well. While we've done that, we've been really conservative about the appropriations that we've made. And that's enabled our gaming enterprise board to sack away $1 million to continue upgrading and building new casinos, which we have to do. We have to continue to maintain market share. As far as the $30 million permanent fund and getting into that, well, that's an easy no. I don't support getting into the permanent fund. The permanent fund was established. Chief Standing Bear was the sponsor of that. It was a great idea, and we set that aside only in emergency cases. Would we get into that, and that would be for our direct benefits for our constituents. So I think we need to continue to maintain with the $40 million. It serves us well. We're able to meet a lot of needs, and I do not support getting into the permanent fund unless it's an absolute emergency. And that would include a catastrophic event like a tornado wiping out a casino and dramatically reducing our profits from our casinos.
Thank you. And Mr. Davis.
I would, $40 million is what our goal is now. We provide lots of services with that $40 million. I think it goes a long way. I think the executive department does a great job in spending that money and putting that money into all of the services that are provided today and for the future. And I think that setting aside $30 million for a permanent fund is just that. Set aside for permanent disasters. If we had a disaster, sure, we could use it for that. I wouldn't really be in favor of getting into the $30 million permanent fund because, like I said, that's what it's for. So if we do have emergencies, like Mr. Walker said, we can dip into it then. And we want to keep a lot of money. We want to keep what we have aside. And then if we have an emergency, like I don't know whether it was an emergency or not, but we purchased land. We have a land acquisition deal that we just went through that we're about to finalize now. Those kinds of things are what that permanent fund is for, and I think that's what we need to save that $30 million for, is to, if in case there's something comes up that we really want to be a part of, and be land acquisition with the goal in mind of regaining our reservation is one of the major points of what we did as getting that acquisition. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Horsechief, do you need me to read the question or? Great.
Absolutely not. I'm absolutely not in favor of tapping into our reserve funds. That's just not even a question. We operate, as I mentioned before, we have a $41 million budget, and that accounts for, that's been the same since 2006. And that accounts for, we have 21,000 people right now, and that number is just going to grow. So what we probably need to look at is how we're right off the top, we have 8 million scholarships, we've helped benefit all of our direct services are amazing. It's okay to stop and assess where we're at and figure out where we're going. In the event of a catastrophic event, I would hope that the programs and departments that we funnel funds to right now are set up for such a situation so that it's not such a huge burden. The money that we have might be better spent in a way with the services that we may invest in the future. If we invest in a funeral home, we're providing a service, we're bringing back income. If we invest some money into a assisted living facility, we're providing a service for our people, and we're bringing back an income to contribute funds to our nation's treasury. That's ideally how it should go. So there shouldn't ever be a question of tapping into our nation's reserve funds, our tribal reserve funds, ever. The services can also be offset by Medicare and Medicaid. So I'm absolutely not in favor of even entertaining a discussion of tapping into our nation's reserves. $40 million may need to be looked at and redistributed on some levels so that it won't be as much as we're giving for scholarships. It will be assessed in a different way. We're providing pathways for people to come home. So your scholarship may become possibly this amount, but we're providing you with a place to come home and work and possibly pay off your student loan. That could be the offset if in the event we have to modify monies without having to tap into our nation's treasury.
Thank you. Mr. President. I'll be happy to read. The Osage Nation receives a $40 million distribution from gaming revenue to operate the nation's programs and services for the Osage people. If elected, do you believe it is financially wise to only appropriate within that distribution, or would you be an advocate for appropriating the distribution and also getting into the $30 million permanent fund?
Absolutely not. The permanent fund is just what it says. It's a permanent fund. It's not to be dipped into. I said, I've heard that one time it was $50 million. And now it's $30 million. I could be wrong. That's probably pretty close. $40 million budget, I think, is put into it. The standards set by that should be obeyed. And I would propose myself to record 1% for the future of our children, grandchildren, even great-grandchildren.
Thank you. And this one.
Absolutely not. Get into the permanent fund. That's what it was set aside for, and it was originally started with $30 million. The income revenue from that fund, the interest revenue from that fund goes to the treasury of the nation. It doesn't go back into the fund. So since its inception, it has not been had any more funds deposited into it. This is the point that I was making in my opening remark about balance. We have all these numbers, but we need to balance. That permanent fund is set aside, in my opinion, for emergency. It should not be dipped into unless we are in an emergency. An emergency is not that we're expanding government on the Hill. That is not an emergency. So we need to find that balance. We've taken on the largest debt this nation has ever stepped into by purchasing the Turner Ranch and also expanding the Tulsa Casino, both of which I do support. And I was presented the numbers, and I think we are sustainable at what we have done if we hold ourselves to that $40 million distribution. New initiatives are great, Reorganization is great to make our money work better for us, to service the area, to serve our people in the areas of land purchase, preserving our language and culture. We need to do that. But you can reorganize things such as our language department. You can reorganize within the dollars that you receive. We just have to think smarter how to spend that money. And the way that we do that is we communicate between branches. We communicate in the legislature about the money and the amount of revenue that we have to spend. And we communicate with the executive branch to see how we're going to distribute it. How are we going to make that money work better for you? How are we going to have these immersion classes within our budget? It's very important for us to reach that balance right now, because once we make it through this land purchase and set it up, what I hope to be an operating branch, it's going to bring us revenue into the tribe. Once we get that set up, we need to be able to put money back into economic development so we can execute all of these good initiatives, all of these great initiatives that are up before us right now. Unless we expand our revenue stream, we are not going to be able to expand our services anymore. I am opposed to shrinking our scholarship dollars. I can see the numbers. I can see our grades of our Osage students, 7-11. That's phenomenal right now. So, thank you.
And now each of you will have 1 minute if you choose to rebut anything that was said. And that will start with
I don't think that I have to rebut anything, so it's correct.
you do not get passed.
Well, no, but I want to make a few statements.
Oh, I see.
I get really but anyway, and being technical, I want to also point out that we established our revenue projection for next year, and it's actually about $47.3 million plus the $30 million for the permanent fund. And for the sake of those who may be curious how the $30 million permanent fund was funded, whenever I came on to Congress, we were over appropriating about $7 to $8 million a year. So we would find out in January that the money that was unexpended or unencumbered by the year's end would then be available for appropriation the following year. That money continued to mount up. It did reach $50 million at one time, and we were spending it. And I'm glad that we set up the permanent fund. It sets us up to take care of our direct services if and when we need. And as far as the $40 million capital gain, that has served us well. That's why we got such a good deal on financing.
Thank you. And Mr. Davis?
I really don't have anything to provide, but I would like to take my minute to speak. I do consider that $40 million that we appropriate and that the executive department funds in that provides great services. And like we have talked about, the $30 million permanent fund would be for emergencies like we talked about. And I think those are really things that we have to look at. We have to look at emergencies. We have to look at things that happen that we don't expect. So I think that even if we did get into the $30 million permanent fund, that it would be at great cost and it would be a great service to our people. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Horsechief?
I'm going to say that, respectfully, I'm coming into this, I will be coming into this elected as a new legislator. And that means just that, new legislation, better legislation, passing better legislation, so that we are not expending funds to the extent that we have overflow or unappropriated funds, or we're appropriating funds in a way that don't make sense. I hear people talk about the land. I'm all for that. I'm all for, I've always been all about, if there's land, you can buy it, let's get it. As far as something like the LLC goes, that was bad legislation. That's not going to happen under my watch. We need to set up boundaries, we need to set up reporting, we need to make sure we keep the temperature of where we're sending our money out to. That's never going to come back. And also language, as legislators, if you're going to talk about language, be about language. Go to class. As a language teacher, I didn't see anybody in class, and that was very disheartening. So if you're going to talk about language, come to language. That's the best way to be a part. Starts at the top, not the bottom, as far as leadership goes.
Mr. Reddy?
It takes to be steady with the budget and go within the budget. It takes discipline. I've seen that work and other service companies also. They go right around it takes the past Congress people that did get the permanent fund. They have to be disciplined and that takes discipline, takes new ideas, takes new people to start over and be successful.
Yes, I'd like to say one more time, Congress has never appropriated $1 out of the permanent fund. It was considered at one point, he wrote some legislation that achieved the ability to utilize the money in the permanent fund for direct service if he wanted to. Chief stated there chose not to. He did not touch $1 in that fund. I think the reason we're talking about this $40 million is that's what we get from the casinos, because we haven't diversified or focused on economic development. One thing I did this past session is Congress as a whole. I put a bill in to put back some of the extra distribution from this land purchase and starting businesses into an economic development fund that is just titled for that. The only way we can access that fund is for economic development projects, and it's $2 million that was set back this last regular session that we had. So until we diversify our revenue stream, we're not going to turn it.
Thank you very much. Starting this question with Mr. Davis, and I will read it. Article 5 of the Osage Constitution provides for a three-branch government, legislative, executive, and judicial. The respective powers of each branch are set out in Articles 6, 7, and 8, respectively. And while each branch has a separate function, the most primary responsibility is to work on behalf of the Osage people. What initiatives will you undertake to ensure communication and cooperation with the executive branch in order for the nation to pursue a shared vision and avoid violation of the separation of powers clause? And this was submitted by Marcia Harlan.
Wow. Thank you. I'll talk about what I've done. I have been 27 years working with different chiefs. I've been working with executive departments since 2006, and I think I have a working relationship that is special, and I think I have a working relationship that I can call honorable and humble. And the things that we do, the things that the executive department does, and the things that the legislative departments do separate in the fact that they don't really want to be mixed. They don't want to get into, the executive doesn't want to get into writing legislation. That is what we're here for. That is what our department is for, and they understand that. And that is what I have, in my 27 years, that's what I've seen. I've seen the tribal councils. They don't want employees. They don't want directors coming up to them and telling them, this is what we need. This is what we have to do to get this service for us. They don't want that. That's what the tribal council wanted to do. That was their job. That was what they felt like they spent, whatever time it was that they spent getting those types of services to the people. So the separation of power there is the fact that most of the people that are in there have a job to do and have a power that they can execute. And that is what that's why they ran for the office. That is why we run for the office, is because we want to write legislation that provides better services. And the chief and the assistant chief, they run for their office so that they can do what their power is, so that they can exert the power that they are elected for. And we are in our office to exert the power that we are for, so that those separations can serve our people better, for the people that we serve, legislatively and executively, judicial. They also want their own word, the final word, in saying that whatever issues they have, that's what they do. So I think, yes, separation of powers is important, and we really have done a great job, I think, in separating those powers. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Horsechief.
I have a question.
Yes. Article 5 of the Osage Constitution provides for a three-branch government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The respective powers of each branch are set out in Articles 6, 7, and 8, respectively. And while each branch has a separate function, the most primary responsibility is to work on behalf of the Osage people. What initiatives will you undertake to ensure communication and cooperation with the executive branch in order for the nation to pursue a shared vision and avoid violations of the separation of powers clause?
I love our Osage Nation government. I love the federal legal administrative system. I love that we have a tripartite government, which includes the federal government, that includes the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. I support our chief. I've always supported our Congress, and I support our courts. As we've seen with the recent United States Supreme Court, I'm a boss, can anybody tell? As we've seen with the recent opinion that's come out of the courts, we have that ability, and we're lucky. I work for other tribes where it's a council, and it works for them, and it also doesn't work for them. I enjoy the Osage Nation government because with the recent opinion from the tribal court's office, it keeps things in line. This is what you can do, this is what you can't do, this is what you're violating. You're violating 6, 7, and 8. This is how you're doing it. We don't want the legislature acting outside of the executive branch. We don't want the executive branch acting within the legislative branch. We don't want HR coming over and talking about employees of the legislative branch. That doesn't work. It's never worked. It has problems. And we do. We work on behalf of constituents. That's our primary goal. I want to sit down with everybody. What do you have to say? Hey, we have elder housing, and it's limited. There's folks that don't have people to take care of them. How are you going to take care of them? Well, I don't know, but I think that there's boards and committees that will come to Congress and let us know this is what the voices of the people are. This is how we're going to address it. We work with the executive. We have a business plan. We appropriate dollars towards it. Put it in action. Is it feasible? Is it not feasible? Is it providing a service? Are we generating income? Those are the questions that we need to ask. Those are the questions that have been asked. I love our three-branch government. It works. But we are the voice of the people. I know that I'm comfortable in talking with the current legislators. I've actually talked with RJ, I've talked with Archie, I've talked with Korea. Anybody who's been on Congress and worked with the nation in three of the direct service programs, I have to talk to them. Hey, something's coming up. We need a way to get people to come to language classes. Can you help us out? This is how much it's going to cost. We'd like to go to Colorado. What do you all think? Is it within our budget? Is it something you can support? Education. They're trying to harass tribal college kids because they think that they're pocketing funds that are not being deposited directly into the treasury. Well, I say no. Here's why. Here's why you should make it this much across the board, because nobody really pockets scholarship dollars in the end. It all goes to the school. And so I think we are the voice of the people, and I support every branch of government. And I have a motion for Congress.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy, go
Agreed,
Absolutely. Article 5 of the Osage Constitution provides for a three-branch government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The respective powers of each branch are set out in Articles 6, 7, and 8, respectively. And while each branch has a separate function, the most primary responsibility is to work on behalf of the Osage people. What initiatives will you undertake to ensure communication and cooperation with the executive branch in order for the nation to pursue a shared vision and avoid violations of the separation of powers clause?
First of all, each branch has its duties and responsibilities. Judicial, we all know that, the judges, the law. Legislature, they make laws. The executive, judicial, and legislature, they all have separate duties and responsibilities. This latest lawsuit came about from the chief, director for last Congress, President Congress, pointed that out very honest. They pointed out that they were micromanaging, they were trying to determine how many people got a raise, who got a raise, how much they got a raise. That's not the responsibility of Congress. And they got out of hand. That needs to change. That's not working. That's not working. The changes that have to be made in parallel with each group, judicial, legislature, executive, we all work together and all have parallel lines, parallel thinking, and long-range plans. It will work. As it was before, we all see that. I believe it is necessary.
And Ms. Whitehorn.
I believe the question was what I was going to do what my initiatives were moving forward to garner good communication and work with the Osage people to provide services. I want to do what the legislator does. We hit a snag in the way that we are in appropriations law. We hit a snag with this last Supreme Court opinion. I understand what it says. I agree with what the Supreme Court opinion says, that we can't put language in a bill that limits or restricts appropriation within an appropriation bill. The problem that we ran into that brought us here is we needed information out of the executive branch to be able to appropriate Osage dollars properly. We were not able to receive the information that was requested because there was no requirement in law that that information be gathered and the data be handed to us either by the Treasury or the Human Resources Department. So I'm going to do what the legislator does. If reelected, I'm going to work very hard on the Treasury Act and very hard on the what's called the Workforce Pay Performance Act and 742. This is what I do. And the two need to marry so where we get good reporting. And we don't have to send an email over to the chief's office saying we need this information, this information, this information. And because they're the executive branch and there's no one in law that have to give that to us, we don't receive that. So if it's set out in the law that the treasurer reports XYZ, HR department reports XYZ, to me, that's the solution. We have the reporting we need. We're able to look at the numbers of employees. We're able to look at the expenditures on employee salaries. We know what our projected revenue is. And then we'll be able to make those decisions to keep Osage Nation sustainable at that level. Because salary and wages is by far the #1 largest expenditure government spends on serving needs. But we're going to have money left over for services too. So, as a legislator, I'm going to do what a legislator does. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to work on the law that predecessors before me have put there. We didn't have a problem until recently. And now we're going to look at that, we're going to reevaluate that, and we're going to try to get it to work because that's what the legislative body does. They write the law. And unless it's in law, it won't happen.
Mr. Walker.
Good question. I'm glad I get an opportunity to address this. Well, for those of you that do pay attention or listen live or go back and archive, committee meetings. I've had a hard time maintaining favor with my colleagues oftentimes because I commonly say that's not our job, crossing the line, reaching separation of powers. So the initiatives that I would take to the laws that speak of Whitehorn reference, but another one is also work on the Budget Parameter and Limitations Act, either by repealing it and starting over, or revamping it, which I think is possible. There's a lot of good language in that bill. So I would say that I would respect separation of powers and the language in the Constitution. I would reach out by phone, email, or when I have face-to-face conversations. I would ask the executive branch and those that they serve, or those representing them, what it is that we can do in the legislature to help. I will listen to the executive branch representatives in committee meetings. I'll hear them out, and whenever disagreements or concerns come up, I'll try to work on a compromise with them. Possibly most importantly, I will respect the rulings of the Supreme Court.
Thank you. Now, each of you may take a minute to reflect or to make further comments. Mr. Davis.
I would like to address the fact that we have had a couple of lawsuits here lately that we've lost. The legislative person has lost, and I don't think that should happen. I don't think that should ever happen. I don't think that any legislation should be found unconstitutional. And I think that shows that the legislative body should do just that. Write legislation that is constitutionally correct. And if they pass something that is not, then we're in a struggle. We're in a fight. And that's where we have been lately. So, thank you.
Right. Maybe this is just government. Is it good government? Tribal government? One of my good friends actually says this. She says, we use sovereignty as a shield to protect ourselves. And that's not just the legislative branch, that's not just the judicial branch, that's not just the executive branch, that's all of us. We use that sovereignty to protect ourselves. I support that Constitution. The Constitution is a living document. Until that changes, that's what I support. That's what we all should support. I support the rulings of tribal courts. I believe in good legislation. Elected as a legislator, I'll make sure I do the research, I talk to folks, and I'm aware, and we reach out. Because that's what good legislators do. Thank you.
Again, with the past lawsuit that we were referring to, it spells disunion. Definitely disunion, I think, between all of them. There have been the two branches at least. And unity is something that has to be achieved in order for progress to be done. I believe that new group of people, new minds, different ideas, new ideas, that can be accomplished. The same people that get reelected and they continue. We want everything to be better, to continue to disunion. It's hard to achieve. Sometimes it takes years to achieve this. But it is possible. Thank you.
I couldn't agree. We need to have better unity, but it comes from good communication between the branches and good law, where the letter of law is written and both sides understand what they're operating in. We can have conversations all day long about how we're going to do something, but unless it's in black and white and it's executable, that's not going to happen. That's what I do as a legislator. Write good law. As far as the appropriations and the Supreme Court came in, the previous fiscal year, we were asked to set limitations on appropriation bills by limiting spending to 94% of what was appropriated. The executive branch asked the Congress to put that limitation in and write it in the legislation to get to a point where we were spending, we weren't over projected revenue. So, communication, that's where it is. Good law.
Mr. Walker.
I have nothing else.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question then. starting this question with Ms. Horsechief. If you had $1 million and had to choose between funding either the health card or the village's flooding problem, solutions, which would you choose and why? This was submitted by Principal Chief Jeffrey Standing Bear.
That is a great question, Chief Shannon. It's a little sweet and sour, because what we're talking about effectively is we're talking about constituents outside of Osage County, and we're talking about constituents living within Osage County, right? And so you're asking me to choose between the importance of other. I don't. We're both equally important. It's easy to say that at this point, the way you take the temperature of any situation is you ask what's going on in the community. I've always said there's no way we can take care of folks outside of this community unless we're taking care of our community. Great Horse, Wasuli, Walhakli, Gonzoli. Those are our communities. Those are everybody, even outside of here, talks about. They talk about these three communities because everybody comes from these communities. And the best way to take care of folks living outside of these communities is to take care of folks living within these communities. Everybody, if you can't make gangs, if you can't benefit by the scholarship, if you aren't able to call and get a health benefit card, I'll tell you one thing, you're coming home for the dances. That's true. Everybody comes home for the dances. And so we've got flooded areas, which we do. Let's take care of it. Let's take care of home so that we can take care of everybody else. I've always maintained that. If we're Rebekah, if we're sick back here, we can't be the best for our folks out there. All of our casinos, all of our generating funds, all the income coming into the nation that funds our direct services begins and ends here, and we appropriate it out. So if we're not taking care of what's happening here, there's no way we can send money out for scholarships. There's no way we can say, here's $500 or whatever, and when you hit a certain age, here's $1,000. There's no way we can say, hey, there's elder housing when you come back because it won't be here. The best way to take care of each other is to take care of home so we can take care of everyone else. This is where I always come back to. I lived all over the world. I lived in New Zealand, I lived in Australia, I lived in New Mexico, Colorado, and I always come home. And I have expectations about home when I come here. We're not taking care of home, we can't take care of outside the community. That's what I would say. Thank you very much.
Mr. Reddy?
Repeat the question.
Yes. If you had only had $1 million and had to choose between funding either the health card or the village's flooding problem solutions, which would you choose and why?
What was the last part of that question?
The second choice, I'll read the question again. If you only had $1 million and had to choose between funding either the health card or the village's flooding problem solutions, which would you choose and why?
$1 million, that's a lot of money to some people. The financial districts in the world is not very much money. I would think that whoever's in the most dire need, that needs it the most in an emergency situation, that's where I would direct it. If the health card, if there's not enough money to fund it, and everybody's getting a card, I would direct that. The remainder, I would direct it toward the other school. Whoever's in the most need.
Thank you. Ms. Myron.
Well, it's a pretty static question, $1 million. That's all I have. But our job as legislators is to solve problems, to look for other resources, to look for other avenues, to move around. I can't see that as a sovereign nation, we don't have the ability to tap into other resources, roads resources, grants, federal dollars, to be able to fix our infrastructure problems in our villages. We have that ability. We've always had that ability. I don't believe we've exercised that ability to its fullest to be able to help the infrastructure of those three communities that were established over 100 years ago. We need to get better about that. Health benefit card, I support it. I think it's a great benefit. I don't know, when people's health hang in the balance or athletic problems in the balance, I don't know that one's more important than the other. Both of those groups of people are having issues. One with their health, one with their home. It's very difficult to have to make a choice like that. So I'm going to just say that I think that we have resources available to us to be able to help both groups of people, people with health issues and people with home issues. And we're a sovereign nation, and we have the ability to do that, and that's what we should be doing, serve you, and to work out the problems that you have with your health, going through home. And I believe this government has the resources to do so. It's hard for me to say one or the other, because I don't see things that way. I serve all people in all areas. Thank you.
Mr. Walker. Yes. If you only had $1 million and had to choose between funding either the home part or the village's flooding problem solutions, which would you choose and why?
That's how I thought the question went. Well, that's easy. I would choose the health card. Why? Because it serves 20,000 Osages. I can talk for an additional minute and a half on other things. I think the executive branch could find the resources available to help the village issues, including the flooding issues. There are federal road funds that could be redirected there. So since it was asked that way, and I can't say, well, limit this or limit there. That's easy.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
I'm for the health card. I'm for the health benefit card. $1 million would go a long way to help fund, which we've already funded, the health benefit card. It would be a great asset to all of our people to have $1 million extra to what we already have as a health benefit card. $1 million would fix the flooding in the villages. And I would be for that too. Why wouldn't I? $1 million would do a lot for the flooding in all of our areas. I know when I was when Osage down at Army, we got flooded one year and we weren't going to have our hospital that night. So I was sent through the flood, through water that was standing 6 to 12 inches in the village. And I was sent to those houses to tell those people, we're not going to have the homestead tonight, so we'll go the next day. So I know that we need that. I know that it would benefit everybody. And $1 million would go a long way to alleviate that problem, which we have had before, which we hear of our history, that those people before us also had that problem, and we still have it. So $1 million would go a long way, and I would be for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And each of you has a minute to reflect or to add information to comments.
Absolutely. I absolutely support the health benefit card. However, I believe the question was asked not if we were able to tap into federal funding or if we had extra reserves. The question was if we had $1 million and these were our issues. I would then say that we do have need as a measure for the nation, and that we have the ability to keep funding these entitlements, scholarship, health benefits, housing, down payment assistance. So that's there. When we come home, this is what takes care of us. This is what everybody that I talk to in California, that I'll talk to in Texas, this is what everybody talks about. This is our culture. We're nothing without our culture, without our language. They're not mutually exclusive. This is what we take care of. This is what we've always striven to take care of. Within our Constitution, first and foremost, is our culture, which is our dances. Thank you.
Mr. Rebekah?
Yes, the health card is vitally important. Now that I thought about it, son, we had $7 million and the health department was in need of some money, they would go back to some discrepancy. Why did they need money? But I made a mistake. I'm amazed at the process. Maybe they weren't grant money. That would be some talk. The floods, you know, really is very important. And for us, especially, because the floodplain there, we're still operating money. And the problem is practical waste, and it's still a low line. It's got to be a choice. It's always a choice. Just like I said in the beginning, there's a dire need for that.
I'd like to just make one little brief comment that to what Mr. Davis said about the flooding in the village in Hominy. This Congress has appropriated money for that issue this last session. We funded the village community down in Hominy to be able to do improvements to their arbor, their community building, and to fix the flooding problem. So the government is at work helping the people of the local community right now, and hopefully they'll get a good plan to the LA department, and those issues will be fixed within a year or so.
Mr. Walker?
Oh, yeah, these are the most fun types of issues to address. Wouldn't involve the village or our culture or our language or anything like that. But again, the question was, if you had $1 million and you could either fund the health part or the flooding in the village, my answer is the health part. So for those of you that are running, or those of you that pay attention and think you might want to run, I've had people tell me over the years they respect my ability to stick to the issues and answer the hard questions and not try to squirm my way out. So I hope I answered that one just as direct as I possibly could. Thank you.
Thank you. I board the health card. The health benefit card, I've used it. My family used it. My mother, who I just lost here in the last year, she used it greatly. It was a great help to her. So I think $1 million in the health benefit card would be great. So I will support that. Thank you.
Thank you. This question will start with Mr. Shannon there. Excuse me, Mr. Rebekah. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Currently, the Osage casinos do not have to adhere to the nation's open records laws. Would you support legislation to open the books of the Osage casinos to the people, submitted by Shannon?
Yes, I would. It has to be transparency. Everybody comes up to these podiums and says we're going to be transparent. And then when you make a call to the nation, nobody answers. They don't make a call. That's transparency. I would open it up. We need to know how much these casinos make. I've visited some of the casino managers. They've always done this thing. But it's good for the people. It's good for business. I'm a businessman. I have a business degree. Open records and transparency all work together. It's got to be done because the people have to be informed. When I was on the Mineral Council, I started a newsletter. Because when I was in California, they told me they didn't know what was going on. And I said, if I start a newsletter, would you vote for it? He said, yes, we will. So I started a newsletter. Now they know what's going on. I hope they still got it going on. The Open Records Act has always been pretty much of a problem in our nation. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. So it could be a good thing, but if you don't disclose what's going on, people don't know. to be a study done up with all the managers come together and make a long-range plan and invite people too. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Whitehorn.
Would you read the question again?
Yes, please. I'll be happy to. Currently, the Osage casinos do not have to adhere to the nation's open records laws. Would you support legislation to open the books of the Osage casinos to the people?
On a limited basis, I would support laws to open up some of the information, possibly not amend the Open Records Act to include the casinos, because they do business for the Osage people that sometimes needs a competitive edge and the advantage of a record not being a public record. So, but I know that the people as a whole are curious to know what the revenue is and where the revenue goes for the casinos earn. I believe it could be a component of another law, possibly their own law, which is the Gaming Reform Act, that would state that they quite possibly would have to do certain reporting to the public. I would be supportive of that. But as carte blanche to include them in the Open Records Act all across the board, I would not be supportive of that. Thank you.
Mr. Robert?
Good answer, Speaker. Can I just say that?
You can say that.
No, real close to that. No, not completely. We've addressed this issue before about a year ago, and Ms. Moody was there and lobbied with Congress why she thinks it's a good idea. I understand and agree with transparency in government, but more importantly, this is a business, and I think that we should enable our businesses to conduct themselves in a business-like way and open up the books for a competitor to see what we're doing. I just disagree with that. So the answer would be no, not completely.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
I have to agree. I don't think we should open up our casinos to the Open Records Act. I think we should get as much information from them as we can. I think that they do have an obligation to make those records available to whoever they allow to see. I don't think that it is going to benefit the government or the legislative at all for them to open the casino books to the Open Records Act. So I probably wouldn't be for opening up the Open Records Act for casinos. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Legally, I would ask what all is involved in that process. That's a legal question. What's the process for going through Open Records Act? What all is involved? What's the public going to see? What is Congress going to see? What are the repercussions, potential repercussions of such an act? However, I am in favor, with a good business plan, a partial, limited Open Records Act process. There's a reason why businesses keep things behind closed doors. It's good business. However, I think when we're a growing nation, when we are a young nation, a young government, that we should be aware of the money we're dealing with. And that's our revenue. That's the revenue for the tribe that's coming in. So I'm saying a limited basis, like Speaker Whitehorn says, Congressman RJ, that's not good. But I want to know legally what that entails and how that affects the nation and how that affects our casinos, because they're still in business. We're still operating a business.
Thank you. And each of you may take a minute to rebut or to any additional comments.
You know, when balance sheets are made public, you know, when somebody months after the quarter or whatever time, they don't want to know anything. And when these casino made, what profit they made, profit loss. I don't believe it would be, I don't believe it would hurt. And now executive sessions, when I went to the gaming commission meeting, they had executive sessions. And I had to leave. And when it comes to executive sessions on the mineral council, the only thing we involved with was personnel. That's the way it's out. But when it comes comes to decisions, important decisions, that could probably be in front of us. But as far as the Records Act, I'll still be here.
That's fine.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize the chair of our Gaming Enterprise Board. He's here, Mr. Mark Sims, and so he doesn't have a run rate. If I'm going to immediately go to the table and start changing the Gaming Reform Act. I want to say that moving forward, if this would move forward, a good piece of legislation involves everybody that concerns at the table. So it would be good to work with the Gaming Enterprise Board. Because I know that they know that they're Osage people. They know that the income they derive and the work that they do benefits everybody sitting here in this room. So a good piece of legislation would be work collaboratively with that board to move forward, to see what they felt was good information to supply to those people.
I'd like to write that speaker. Hello, Mr. Sims. If you get a chance, pat him on the back. He's doing a great job on Myron and his staff. He just had a record year last year, and they're on pace for another one. Again, this is probably an unpopular thing to say, but transparency in government when it involves our business can only go so far, in my opinion. Me and 11 other members, there's 12 members on the Congress, and we each get a chance to ask direct questions. We get to see all of the information, and we get to make the important decisions that affect everybody, and that's what we were elected to do. So again, my answer to that is no, not applicable.
Mr. Davis?
I want to say again that I don't think we should let our casinos be subject to the Open Records Act. If we let them just be a little bit exposed, it's going to open it up to the whole thing. So no, I would say no, that we shouldn't allow that. If we just get certain parts of it and say, this is what we want you to report to us, in spite of the Open Records Act, then that opens up the whole Open Records Act. So no, I think we should stay out of it. Thank you.
This is not a popular conversation. We've seen what happens when you don't keep the temperature of where our money is going. The LLC is a scar on the finance of the nation that we'll never see back. So if we're not forthcoming, and we're not taking the temperature on where the nation's finances are going, then we lose. We lose $17 million, I was told by Congresswoman Edwards. I would say $18 million shy, $17 million. We need to be able to legally look into something. It's feasible legally, let's look into it. If it's not good for business, fine, but there's got to be a way to monitor funds that are coming in and out of the nation so we don't run into something such as that ever again. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will now start closing remarks. They will be 2 minutes each. And I will start with Ms. Wright.
Thank you. Well, again, I appreciate your time. What I want to talk about is balance, the way our government's set up, the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. There has to be a balance. There's a separation. There is a distinct separation of powers. But if we aren't working together to find the balance, it's the people that suffer. Good communication, good laws that are clearly written, what's required of everybody who that it involves and has to execute the law. Good information. We're seeing a lack of that right now. We're seeing a lack of literal language in the law that causes certain people to do certain things. So therefore, if it's not in the law, it's not happening. That's not balanced. So if I am allowed to continue my work on Congress, that's going to be my next focus. It's not a chicken in every pot, it's not real sexy, but it's underlying structure. It's taking a look back, it's pulling back and looking at what do we need to do now. to be able to start rebuilding, making our structure stronger, and it's all about balance and good communication. Good communication goes both ways. I have worked hard, loved on Congress. I love my job. I have no special interest group that supports me in the nation. Have no tie, owe nobody anything up there. I work for you because it's important to me that we get better and better and improve. And I thank you for your time, and I ask for your support on this ballot. Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Thank you. This will probably be brief, but again, I did the high points earlier. Just to let you know that I'm active, I'm involved. I pay attention. I attend all of the committee meetings. I think the last time that I checked my attendance record, it was right at 99%. So I'm there. I represent you. I'm not afraid to make tough decisions, even when they're not popular. I'll kind of joke up in the Congress and commonly said that I'm not really part of the cool crowd, and I'm fine with that. But I work well with my colleagues, and I work well with the executive branch, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you. I am going to end with some things that I have had on my heart for a while that people out in the communities have come up to me and asked me about. I am on the Board of Education for the Hominy Public Schools. When the chief ran for election, one of his platforms was that we could start a school. We could start schools for our school children. Our public schools are not working. Our public schools are not moving forward, and they're not helping our children. So I'm ready to get our own school. A lot of other tribes have their own schools. Some of the legislation that has gone through lately has done away with some of our programs that help our kids. And some of our legislation that have gone through lately for our churches, some of those people didn't vote for those. I am against that. I am for our culture. That is our culture. And that's what I want to do. I want to see a school, and I want our culture to be advanced. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you again to all of you for coming out here today. This is a really awesome process that we have. Like any other tribal government in the United States. As I was going to say before, is y'all have invested will have invested over $50,000 in my education. And I don't feel empty-handed coming into this position whatsoever. Everything I've done in my life, academically, spiritually, physically, culturally, has been to come home and work for the Osage Nation. And I wanted to end on one note. In Osage, everybody says, watch down, try hard, do your best, but that's you talking to somebody else. I want to say, because I know how, I'll watch down, I'm going to try hard, I'm going to do my best, speak from my heart, and make good, ethical decisions. I also want to say one other thing. We also say in Osage, Zani, Wami, Hoin, Kumbra. Zani, Wami, Hoin, Kumbra. That means keep respect first in your life. And that should be somewhere in those congressional chambers. So I believe it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy.
I've been, when I first came out dinner last fall, in November, I expressed myself as the future. I want to think about the future. My children, my grandchildren. I talked to several people around the nation, different departments. They told me to go visit with some other tribes around the area, and I did. I visited with the Seneca, Cayuga, and Eastern tribe up there. I asked them, I said, could you sustain your economy without gambling? They said, yes. Can we do that? We all know the answer to that. That's what I'm all about, diversification, business, branching out. And I'd like to express to the people that most people don't know. We need for the younger people to grow. We all have children, grandchildren. Great. They'll be a part of the nation someday. I'd like to make that request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.